the meeting on this day of the month. The gentleman to my right, I don't need to read any of this, I don't think the gentleman to my right, I met when I first came in the rooms, which was a little over 3 years ago now, shy of 3.5 years, and he taught me a lot about myself. One of the things he taught me was how to show up and be in service. And I don't know if anyone was here other than Gary when I spoke here. I spoke for my cousin because he couldn't show up. Fran came out to see me, and we don't live close by, so it was quite a deal. And then immediately afterwards, he signed up for this. So that's the kind of AA person he is, and he's been an example to me, and he's been an example to a lot of others. So please help me welcome my friend Fran.
Thanks, Tim. I appreciate it. So my name's Fran. I'm an addict and alcoholic.
Hi, Fran.
Hi, Fran.
I'm glad it's 15 minutes on the step and 15 minutes to qualify myself, and then 15 minutes on the step because.
You can blend it too.
Yeah.
At this point, just take the whole. Yeah.
Well, actually, I read the step today. I meditated it was a beautiful day. My back deck. Yesterday was my birthday. So I turned 77. I know I look good for my age. Has a lot to do with sobriety. So I was thinking, what a beautiful day, it was. But the 6 readings that I did, that I usually do in the morning, and if I don't get to them at some point, I try to get to them at some point in the day. And that's the 24-hour book, the black book. It usually pisses me off because it's too fundamental. Actually, the original one I gave away, and it was given to me in the Salvation Army. I gave it away to a newcomer who's still clean and sober to this day, who I actually saw, because he's a rock star, I actually saw him perform. I guess I was in my sobriety, he was not in his sobriety. So I was startled to see him. I recognized him and gave him this book because at that point, that book was really bothering me. Second book is the NA Day by Day book, which I started picking up. First 5 years of my, I'll briefly qualify myself before I begin that. Before I bring you into the day. So my name is Fran. I'm an addict and alcoholic. So I drank I was in my addiction for 21 years. In February, I'll celebrate, by the grace of God and the fellowship of this program, 42 years. That'll double the length of time that I was in my addiction. I share that because numbers kind of mean something to me. My father's favorite number was 3, and he was a gambler. My favorite number is 5. I know it's one day at a time, but I want to die sober. I know you're not supposed to say that. You're supposed to live one day at a time. Good luck with that. Because after this meeting ends, there's 23 more hours in the 24-hour period. And we got 23 more hours to stay clean and sober. So I'm probably going to say something that takes me back to the past, projects me into the future, And I'm probably going to say something that's going to fire all of somebody's brain to think about your past or to worry or project about your future. So good luck with one day at a time. It no longer pisses me off. There's a lot of things that piss me off in AA. Old timers piss me off. Now that I'm one, I'm trying not to piss myself off or piss anybody else off. So I'm at a meeting because I need to hear what you have to say. I'm not here to listen to what I have to say. I always come to a meeting thinking I'm going to hear something I need. Sometimes that something I need to hear comes out of this mouth. And whenever that strikes me, I usually end what I share by saying, I hope I was paying attention because I really needed to hear what I just said. The youngest of 12 children.
Wow.
My mother had 15 pregnancies in 20 years. So she had 3 miscarriages. I didn't find out about the miscarriages until I was in my 20s. I always felt different, and I always felt alone.
Can you talk up a little bit?
Sure. I always felt different, and I always felt alone. And I've come to understand recently that that's my interpretation of my life. That's not the reality that was there, because how can you be alone in a family of 12 children? But you can, psychologically, emotionally. But I've come to realize that, I'm a veteran too. 72 in the Army. I dodged the bullet of Vietnam, but I was, believe it or not, I was a drug and alcohol therapist in the Army. I was a psychology, social work technician, and a social worker. I was in that birthday draft, 68, where they pulled your number out of a lottery. My number was 36. So after college, I went right into the Army. Basic training was one of the best experiences I ever had in my life. I walked into basic training, 22 years old, a college graduate, 195 pounds, and I only lost 5 pounds in basic training. I ran a mile in 4:56 in combat boots. The guy that beat me ran a 4:10 mile, and he smoked 4 packs of Pall Malls again. A tall, skinny black guy from New York, and he was smoking a cigarette by the time I crossed the finish line. Couldn't believe it. I loved basic training, but there was no way. I had already protested, I was part of I had a ticket to Woodstock, I was a hippie, and there was no way I was going to die in Vietnam. So when I was in basic, but I had 2 brothers that went into the Army. I sort of believed in serving the country, but that was it. So in basic training, I asked the drill sergeant, I said, I want to see the chaplain. What do you want to see the chaplain for? Recruit. Well, Sergeant, I think that's none of your business. So that afternoon I saw the chaplain. They said, why did you want to see me? I said, I want to know how to apply for a conscientious objector status. So he said, you just started. He said, let me give you some advice. I'll meet with you every other week, 4 times in 8 weeks of basic training. Don't make any decisions. And after basic, you're going to get your next duty station. They're going to send you for training. Wait to see what that training is. So I listened to him. We had 4 meetings over the course of 8 weeks and talked a lot about all kinds of stuff. So they sent me to Fort Sam Houston, Texas to be a dental specialist. But everybody that went to there had a 2-week combat crash course to be a combat medic. In case the shit hit the fan, whatever you were trained at, they were going to make you a combat medic as a secondary MOS. So during the 2 weeks, I met 6 other guys that had degrees in psychology or social work, and we got transferred to a different school, and that's how I became a psychology social work technician. My first duty station was I was a pediatric social worker at Walter Reed Hospital, and then I was sent to Thailand to be drug and alcohol specialist, where I did assessments of what became known as PTSD. Soldiers who were wounded or anybody that had drug and alcohol problems, I did the first assessment, sent them down to the Department of Psychiatry in Bangkok, where the major, never forget his name, Major Kojak. He was my supervisor, and I made the determination whether to treat them in country or send them back to the States. Thailand was where my addiction really took off. So my addiction started at the age of 14 with my first drink. And the reason I say that was because that drink told me 2 things. As soon as I had it, was just 1 beer. I remember what it was. It was a can of Esslinger beer. Stars on the cans, and the stars were, by the time I finished it, the stars were in my eyes. That drink told me 2 things. Wow, you are not just shy, you're uptight. And the second thing that it told me was, you just found the solution. I chased that feeling for 21 years, never quite caught it. I guess 4 or 5 years later, I added drugs to the mix. So, enough about that. Totaled 5 cars, blah, blah, blah. Lost a lot of jobs, blah, blah, blah. Step 6. We're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. So for the first 5 years of my recovery, I went to both fellowships, AA and NA, Narcotics Anonymous. Did a lot of step work in Narcotics Anonymous because my home group there was heavy on the steps. Interesting thing about Narcotics Anonymous is they use the exact same steps. They put "we" in front of every one of the steps. That always struck me, that difference, In AA, we use "we" in front of the first step. We drop it. When the drug addicts were expelled from AA, that's a whole story. I think it happened in Philadelphia. as a matter of fact, in West Philly. You know, I think that experience maybe taught the old timers in NA, you know, the we is important. Because AA, we just got kicked out of AA, and that separation, that was their experience. So I think that taught me a lot about, you know, the fellowship and relying on, because remember what I said, youngest of 12 children, always felt alone. This was the prison, in the left ear and the right ear, you know. And that still is the seat of my addiction. If I stay there, I can be convinced that my thoughts are correct, ones that should be driving all decisions, and I've never seen God, so I must be God. All those things are bad. All those things are addictive thinking. You know, they're not sober thinking. So, it's taken me a long time to address some of what the steps tells us. You know, these character defects. So thank God, my first sponsor, without even knowing, he knew me. Oddly enough, he was a year behind me in grade school. So after I was in the rehab for 30 days, my counselor in the rehab, who I trusted, came to trust, he suggested that I go live at the Salvation Army in Roxborough. Holy shit. Here I am, a master's degree. I used to work in the field. The Salvation Army, it's come to this. Okay. But he goes, you have no business going back to where you were living before. No business. Just go there. So I trusted him. So I went there. You know, that turned out to be exactly what I needed. You know, I needed to be put on the shelf. I needed my life to be on hold. I needed to concentrate on staying clean and sober. And what was going to be the solution? What was going to be the solution? Literature means a lot. That word is in the literature, solution. It was my, you know, and it's become my solution. My solution used to be my father's solution and two of my brother's solution. You get drunk a number of times, you turn to the closest person who's with you, girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, wife. I'm sorry, I'll never do that again, and you quit. I did that 5 times. Never stayed stopped. One reason I want to die sober, I want to stay stopped. I don't want to get off this train. The train goes, I'm on the train. I notice that we stop. We stop at these stations. People get off the train, and there's always people at the station getting back on the train. I want to stay on the train, enjoy the scenery, and try not to focus on where the hell are we going? Where is that destination? Because that is the great unknown. Just staying on the train. So, where does this rambling lead me to? Back to the steps. So, I'm in the Salvation Army. I wound up driving a truck, and truck drivers could take the van out to meetings. I take the van over to the old Flowertown Clubhouse, not the one over the bar, the one that used to be in what's now a antique store or something. I walk in there, and behind me, I hear my full name, Franny Baird. So much for anonymity. I turn around, it's a guy who was a year behind me in grade school. He became my first sponsor. So that's what I mean by he didn't know me that well. We weren't like friends, but he knew, he had this intuition about me being a complicated person. So everything he said was to simplify the steps. I once made an amends to my ex-wife. It cost me $2,000. She owed me $5,000 because I gave her the house, a car, all the furniture. I just left. So she owed me $5,000 for all of that stuff. I went over to make amends. I was so full of guilt without talking to my sponsor, and I walked out with a check for $3,000. To which he said, "Why do you think there's 2 steps in making amends?" Huh? I didn't even know there was a step 8. I was so full of guilt in the beginning, so focused on the apology and making amends and what does that mean, that I completely blew past step 8. You have to be ready, which brings me to step 6. Entirely ready. So I have a lot of identities. I'm a musician, I'm a PhD psychologist, I'm an adjunct professor. I ran the vocational guidance unit for 2 years at the Philadelphia prison system. I volunteer at the state prison, Phoenix. I've been doing that for 9 years. And my volunteering is I run a poetry workshop. And the guys in my workshop have been published twice. And I'm a poet. I pay attention to words. Words really mean a lot. I believe the only knowledge is metaphor. I hate everybody's conception of God. Are you kidding me? It's all anthropomorphism to me. God's will, he, him, she, it, they. I've given up that fight. You know, your God is your God. I have no idea. My God has been, sometimes he's a stand-up comedian. I'm supplying him with a lot of material for his nightly performance. Sometimes I'm in the ring boxing with God. My arms are not too short to box with God, but I've never landed a punch. He's got one glove on my forehead, I'm swinging underneath, and the other one, he has a cell phone because he's getting a lot of texts. Could you please have the Phillies win tonight? Could you, I hope the Eagles win the second Super Bowl. Make that girl love me like, I wish my husband would stop, whatever it is. A lot of requests, a lot of specific requests. Oh, boy, I would hate to be God. There is a God, it ain't me. And it's not my mind, it's not my thoughts. So, words, entirely ready. I love in the step. Every time I'm at a 6-step meeting, I start out hating the step and I wind up loving it by the end of it. Because in the beginning, this is the step that separates the men from the boys. Well, what about 50% of the population? My mother was a feminist, my mother was 5'2". Her maiden name was Monahan. She took no prisoners. My father used to be a boxer, and his nickname for my mother was K.O. Monahan. You don't mess with Mom. All her sons, if they sassed her, she used to get a chair, step up on the chair and look us directly in the eye. Don't talk back, you know. And my father once froze any of the guys talking back to the mother by saying, "That's my bride you're talking to." All of a sudden, you weren't in the living room, you weren't in the kitchen, you were out on the street, and some guy was saying to you, "It's my girlfriend you're talking to." Better watch what you say. You know, all of a sudden, mom had a whole nother identity. She was somebody's girlfriend. Very cool. Entirely ready. So I love what it says in the step. You know, we could interpret it entirely as perfection. You know, and all the other things that it says, you know. Oh, you know, we don't have to be perfect. In the hands of a rationalizing alcoholic, that word could get a long-term meaning, you know. Oh, okay, we don't have to be perfect. I can go slow. So on my way here, there's nothing like a person in his addiction who totaled 5 cars. And in his sobriety, totaled 3 cars. So I'm just a lousy driver, you know, drinking or not drinking. There's nothing like being behind a huge 6-wheeled dump truck full of crap and not giving myself enough time to get here on time. I just waltzed in here at 1 minute before 6. And I wanted to be on time and get here early. There's nothing like an experience like that to remind you that you're still working on character defects. And that sponsor said, in simplifying step 6 and 7, so very simple. Character defects are things that you're doing and probably shouldn't be doing. Shortcomings are things that you probably should be doing and aren't doing. Very interesting. So, I guess that's in from me. Because as I said, you know, I come to meetings to hear what other people have to say, because I need to hear things outside my skull to take them with me to get another 24 hours. I want to thank Tim for asking me to speak, Gary for, you know, grabbing me before I left the first time I was here several months ago, and meeting's yours.
Thanks, Fran. Do I have to say we have come to the part of our meeting where